What's up, everybody? The boring housing market here in Phoenix. Yes, that's what we're talking about today. I know it's boring, but we're going to talk about it because it's important to know where we're at, right? Let's get the most up to date information based off of data over drama, facts over fiction. And you're going to hear it right here on YouTube Live, Everything Phoenix. We're coming at you on a weekly basis with the best and most up to date information on all what's happening with the housing market. So you're fully informed, as well as developments around the entire Phoenix area. Guys, my name is Kelly Cook, and if you don't mind just letting us know where you're watching from, that would be great. We would love to know where you're watching from. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and let's participate. Let's make this a two-way conversation if you would like. Or if you're watching a replay, go ahead and comment below and let us know what you think about these topics. All right, the boring housing market. That's kind of what it is. It's kind of a sleeper, guys, and it might remain the same for a while. We'll see. It depends on what happens with a lot of things, primarily interest rates, as we all know. Rates are not getting better. They are actually, if anything, getting a little worse because most recently the CPI came out, the Consumer Price Index, which measures inflation, came out, and they have found out that inflation actually is going up most recently, guys. That's right. Inflation is going up, which is not going to help the cause or the case to make to the Fed to actually bring down those interest rates. And so now we are in this really weird environment where most likely towards the end of the year, or through the end of the year here in 2023, we'll probably see rates even go up a little bit more when it talks about the federal funds rate, which is the borrowing rate between banks, and therefore everything else is based off of that. So we'll see what happens, guys. But thank you for joining us here on YouTube Live, and we're going to dive right in to what's going on. We have some information really quick I want to hit on, which has to do with the chip manufacturing market. Why? Because that is a huge employer for the Phoenix area. That's right. Intel, you may have heard of them. They are based out of Chandler, Arizona. They employ about 12,000 employees. It is a huge operation, and they're currently making a $20 billion investment to make two more fab factories or manufacturing plants on their Ocotillo South Chandler campus. Big investment. Meanwhile, you have TSMC, which is in North Phoenix, as we all know, making their or building their plant out, which is a $40 billion manufacturing plant. So, guys, Phoenix is on the map when it comes to chip manufacturing, and chip manufacturing, basically everything runs on chips, right? So without them, you wouldn't have much of what you have today when it comes to technology. This computer I am dealing with or working with today, and cars and all kinds of things, guys. So we're going to dive right in and we're going to cover what's going on with these chips and what's going on with the manufacturing here in the Phoenix area, guys. So I'm going to share my screen as I always do. We're going to save that for a little bit later because what are rates doing? We'll get to that in a second, okay? But first, let's dive right in here with active listings. All right, guys, this is the Phoenix metro market. This is taking everything into consideration. And you can see in a nutshell now what the market's doing here with supply, right? Active listings, they are the supply. And you can see right now that in 2023, supply is doing what? It's going up. Ooh, that's interesting, right? So supply is actually increasing. Now, if it continues to go up and demand stays to keeps where it is, I guess, stays the same, I should say, then we could have a little interesting move on prices potentially, making affordability maybe a little bit better. Although that happens, listen, you're just negating it with rates going up if that's what happens too. So we'll see what happens there, guys. But look right over here in this chart, you can see the purple here in 2023, the supply is going up a little bit over the past week or two. Interesting. Now, what does Cromford Report have to say about that? Now, for those of you guys who don't know, Cromford Report is the leading housing economist in the state of Arizona, and we get all of our data from them and them alone, primarily for the niche of Phoenix. Now, I look at Yahoo Finance and real estate, Forbes. I read a lot of journals and follow this stuff pretty closely, guys. But that's more on a macro level. Now, when it comes to Phoenix housing, this is the authority. This is where you're going to get the best interpretation of the actual data happening just right here in the Phoenix metro area. So this is it, guys. Let's see what they have to say. All right, the supply chart above shows that supply is starting to rise again. The increase was very modest for the first 6 weeks, but last week saw active listings rise 3.2% to 12,476 active current properties for sale in the market. This is still a small number. Last year was well over 19,000 at this time, but the trend is of psychological importance to the consumer, right? Buyers can flex their muscle a little, especially in the areas with the lowest CMI, such as Casa Grande and Queen Creek. All right, of course, any major concern in mortgage rates could set a cat among all the pigeons. I love that. Okay. This certainly works both ways, but the 7% level seems to have established itself as the borderline between good and bad sentiment. I am tempted to mention that I bought my first home in 1976 with a variable rate mortgage, and it was only fixed for the first 5 years at 8.25%. Funny enough, this is actually lower than the 8.75%. Okay, that is interesting. Now, we all talk about this right now when it comes to rates, and boy, if they were this high, what does it matter? Because 20 years ago, that was about right. The average rate has always been above 8%, no problem. But guys, the difference is pricing. Back 20 years ago, back 30 years ago, prices weren't where they are today, right? I mean, you could buy the same house today that maybe cost $450,000 in Phoenix for $100,000, maybe $80,000. And so, because of inflation over time and real estate prices increasing over time, that 8% rate today is not the same as it was in 1982. It just isn't, because the price of the home is a lot more expensive. So it makes affordability a lot more, especially when you talk about wage growth not increasing with the same rate that housing prices are increasing, or rates increasing for that matter, from where they typically are. So we know one thing, guys. We know that rates have to come back down at some point. Otherwise, it's just going to be tough, because no one will want to sell because they can't afford the next house, and people who don't currently own a property won't be able to buy their first house. And so that has to change. And so there's some things that will be coming down the pike. And I think one of them will be, as the economy slows down and hopefully inflation gets under control, hopefully one of them will be that rates do settle back down a little bit, down in the fives. Hopefully that would be great. I think that would really spur the housing market and get people to come out of the woodwork and buy. The problem is you still have a supply issue. That's the problem. And so how do you get people to put their property back into service, meaning sell their property so someone else can buy it that maybe needs it or wants it or whatever the case may be? That is the issue that we're going to be focusing on here. And hopefully there will be something that happens to spur people to want to sell. Interest rates could be one of them. And I also hope this, guys, to get inflation to decrease. I really hope that the government stops injecting money into the economy. I know that's maybe counterintuitive when the economy starts to stall out, but that's what has to happen for inflation to come down. Guys, we all know what the definition of inflation is, right? Inflation, by definition, is too much money chasing after too little goods. And so right now, when you have an unemployment rate that's super low, you have job help wanted signs on the glass walls of businesses as you drive down any street in America, for the most part, it seems like. You don't need to inject more money into the economy. This is just simple economics 101. It doesn't matter who is running the White House. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It's just simple economics. And so that being said, hopefully it doesn't happen, because if we can get through that, the pace here of the economy slowing down a little bit, which then hopefully will have inflation slow down because no more money is injected into the economy. Hopefully then things can start to reset a little bit. The Fed can have that soft landing they're trying to accomplish, and affordability maybe gets a little bit better, especially as hopefully more and more homes by these big home builders get built. That's like, the perfect scenario, right? But I don't know if all the stars are going to align, right? Because that takes a lot of different entities and people working in conjunction with each other, and it's disconnected. So that's going to be tough to do. So what do you make of all that? If you're looking to buy, looking to rent, or what are you looking to do? What do you make of all that then? What do you do? And I think at the end of the day, my most simplistic advice is what I've heard a long time ago, and I said on this show a lot, and I'm going to keep saying it, is you don't wait to buy real estate, you buy real estate and wait. Now you have to be able to afford it. That's the thing though. But if you can't afford some piece of real estate today, if you can, I know it seems like it's expensive. I know the payment seems like it's expensive, but what are you comparing it to be expensive to? If you're comparing it to be expensive towards 2020, you're right. It's going to be expensive. If you're comparing it to be expensive to 2015, you're right. It's going to be expensive. Now, if you take what the average return maybe is over 30 years in the housing market, average appreciation rate of what the housing market has done over the last 30 years, maybe you adjust it for inflation, because that's probably what you should do, because that's what's really happening in the economy today. And you say, okay, yes, it's expensive, but if I can afford it, do I jump in? Well, now what you're having is you have a lot of people who can't afford properties, but the properties they can't afford are in areas of town they don't want to be in. And I can't blame them. No one wants to live in an area of town that you really don't want to live in. I get that. I wouldn't want to either. But maybe that's part of the short-term sacrifice that needs to happen because if you can get into an area, now let's make sure you want to make sure you're safe, right? Let's be clear about that. We're not talking about going to an area where you don't feel safe at night, right? That would obviously maybe a little counterintuitive. Um, but the reality is, if you do and you can find a place that's maybe just far away to drive, or maybe it's just not as safe as you'd like to be, but it's still overall somewhat safe. But you sacrifice by house hacking, or you sacrifice by buying that small little house in the area you don't really want to be in, but you own it. Then you can build off of that because if the real estate market over time goes like this at a 45-year angle or some sort of angle in the positive direction, you're going to win. But you have to play the long game, guys. You have to play the long game. Now, in the short term, maybe it's best to rent because maybe you have a contract for work and it's up in 8 months and you don't know if they're going to renew it. And therefore, it could take you out of state. In that scenario, obviously, it'd probably be more wise to rent. By the way, we talked about this last week. Renting right now for the median home price of $455,000, which is what it is here in Phoenix, median home price right now compared to the median home rental price right now for that same house, you're going to be saving about in the ballpark of $600 to $700 a month. That's the kind of the numbers. So renting is cheaper, but don't confuse cheaper monthly payments for a long-term strategy because it's not. It might be a short-term strategy, but does that mean you're banking on the market going down? Are you only not buying because you want to time the market perfectly? Good luck with that one, guys. It's hard to do. The smartest people in the world can't do it. And if they do, they just got lucky. So I would encourage you to really evaluate the process or the strategy you're employing for yourself if it comes to do I buy or do I not? Is it high? Is it too high? Is it overbought right now or is it not? Things of that nature. Instead, I would focus on having a long-term strategy. Okay. Now let's jump back in. That's my rant for the day. This is a piece of friendly advice. I've been doing real estate now for 18 years. Sold a lot of houses and have a lot of rental houses bought myself that I own. And so I've seen the up and downs of the market, and everything I said is true, guys, based on my own experience of seeing multiple market cycles in my 18 years, especially in Phoenix, where it's been kind of a wild ride. All right, back to the Cromford report. You can see that active listing chart. Now let's go to this one here. We can see the different suburbs across Phoenix, and if they're going up, if they're going down, and where they stand with the Crofton Market Index, the CMI. Guys, everything right now is above 100, except for Queen Creek. Now, Queen Creek is still in that range of a balanced market, right? Because between 90 and 110 is a balanced market. So you still have that range right there where Queen Creek's still in pretty good shape, although it is decreasing. Everything else is above the 100 mark, and therefore it is a seller's market or a balanced market like Maricopa. So look at Chandler. Holy moly. Now it's coming down 16% because it probably should, but 265 is strong. Very much so a seller's market. Okay. Not as much supply. Now, again, Chandler, that's where Intel is. That's where a lot of technology companies are located with higher paying jobs. So there's a reason that's happening, right? Due to the economic conditions of the city right now. All right. Now let's jump over here to, well, you can see the market summary for the beginning of September. Guys, I would just say a couple things here. Monthly sales, let me point this one out for you, okay? 6,200 properties approximately sold last month in the greater Phoenix area. Now it's down 1.2%, but up 5.5% from last month. It's going in the right direction. So if that supply is increasing, that could be good because it appears based upon this number right here, this stat, that demand is also upticking. That could be a good thing. We'll see what happens, okay? Now, if you go over here, you can see the big board here. I call it the big board. But as we talked about, the active listings here are 14,000. But if you exclude the ones that are under contract right here, the number is 12,284 as of yesterday, right? As of yesterday. So you can see the average days on market are 57. And you can see the month supply is currently at 2.1 months supply. And it's going up. The supply is going up, as we just mentioned. So if no other homes came on the market in the next 2.1 months, all homes would be sold. All homes would be gone. There'd be no homes for sale in the entire Phoenix area, which is a population in the greater Phoenix area of over 5 million people. So that's interesting, right? But again, more homes will come on the market, so that shouldn't ever happen. That'd be crazy if it did, right? All right, monthly average sales price. This is a cool graph, I think, to show you as a visual. But look at what happened over since 2012, guys. Now, granted, we were coming out of the Great Recession. Prices were beat down, but the monthly average sales price in March of 2012, just a little, what, 11 years ago, 163, guys. Oh, we should all be just banging our heads on the wall right now. Why did we all not chip in and buy as many homes we possibly could back then, right? Oh my goodness, look at this. And now in July of 23, we're at 556 here on a average sales price, not median, but average, just to show you the differences between the two. But you can see where it was here in May of 22 before it started to falter. And this is the second half of last year. Look at that decline. And then look at the bounce back. So if you bought December 22, congratulations, you pulled the trigger at the right time. Good job. And then here we are, right? Back down. All right, now let's talk about some development stuff. Now the Ritz-Carlton, we're gonna pivot here. The Ritz-Carlton project is like nothing else in Arizona, guys. I have a whole video on this, and it's just fantastic. But there's a little snapshot of what the five-star hotel resort, probably be a 5-diamond one, I imagine, in terms of the rating. But it's going to be absolutely stunning, and as you can see right there. And it's huge. And the cool thing, what makes this unique about the Ritz-Carlton project is it straddles the border between Paradise Valley and Scottsdale, and it has private residences as well. It's not just a resort or a hotel. So the cool thing is they're talking about the $2 billion development is now scheduled to open in 2024. Hallelujah. There was some discrepancy on that. No one really knew when that might happen. So they're not giving an exact time frame, but 2024 is going to happen, which is really, really good. We need that to happen because there are 80 luxury homes within the Ritz-Carlton villas alone, not even including the estates. And they are waiting for their home to be finished. They can move in. This article goes on to say that people have rented properties because their home sold, thinking that their Ritz-Carlton property would be available, and it's not. And so they're renting properties now, waiting for their home to be done because all 80 villas right here have sold, and half of the 32 estate homes have sold as well. So interesting. But the New York-based Madison Realty Capital originated a $585 million loan to Five Star Development to help finish the construction project, representing one of the largest loans in 2023 in Metro Phoenix. Pretty crazy, right? That's a big loan. I don't want to have that monthly payment. Yikes. Okay, but Five Star Development is building it, and this place is going to be awesome, guys. This is also home to the Fendi building, guys. The Paul Mayer project, part of the Ritz-Carlton, is going to have a Fendi designed, themed building with penthouse suites at the top and the whole 9 yards. It's going to be sick, right? Let's be honest about it. It is. I mean, you're going to have amenities in there that are second to none. You're going to have restaurants in that Palmyra district that have no other footprint in the entire state of Arizona. On purpose, they want unique dining experiences, upscale experiences, and they're going to deliver it in this Ritz-Carlton project. So stay tuned to that. It's going to be awesome. By the way, the sales for the Fendi building have not started yet. They are doing a lottery situation, a waiting list, if you will. So contact me if you have any questions about the Fendi building. My gal Suzanne over there is a great contact, and I will get you guys on the list, okay? And you can call me at any point at 480-660-5974, and we'd be happy to help you out, guys. All right, so we're going to jump over to the next topic, which is interesting, right? Because TSMC, which we just hit on, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, is, they're struggling in Arizona. This is not good. And why are they struggling in Arizona? They're building this $40 billion manufacturing plant, which is one of the largest investments ever made in the U.S. on U.S. soil by a foreign company from a different country. And the governor is going to go out there and just play nice to them, right? And show face and do all this, whatever, right? To try to keep them happy because they are struggling. They're not real happy right now with the current economic conditions for labor, if you will, in the state of Arizona. And here's why. I think I have it highlighted for you right here. They looked to Japan amid frustrations in Arizona. Why? Citing anonymous industry sources, Reuters, however you want to say it, wrote that TSMC has taken an increasingly optimistic view of Japan as a product base and is frustrated with Arizona, where it has struggled to recruit workers for the grueling chip-making trade and faced pushback from unions on efforts to bring in workers from Taiwan. TSMC is currently developing a $8.6 billion fab on the island of Kyushu and is expected to start production in 2024, adding that TSMC sees Japan as a more natural fit because of a similar work culture and its proximity to Taiwan. What's more, as TSMC announced in early August, it would commit 3.5 billion euros to a plant in Germany. Okay, this stuff is not all good because we still want to keep this one going here in Arizona. But this summer, TSMC said it pushed back the production start date of its Arizona computer chip factory by a year because of a shortage of skilled labor to install equipment at its site. It originally anticipated starting opening production in 2024, and now it's pushed back to 2025. And again, it said other reports from the American Prospect have said that TSMC has refused to sign a project labor agreement with local labor unions. So right now, big unions are getting in the way of having the TSMC finish out strong. And so now TSMC, hopefully, I'm sure they're not going to they got a huge project. They're not going to pull the plug. Obviously, they have huge development costs involved in time with this. But my goodness, I guess they're not used to the union labor force that is holding up things with what they had anticipated would be a specific finished date that is upcoming, guys. So hopefully TSMC and the unions here in America can get that figured out and move forward at a faster pace so that they don't proceed with other places across the globe. But it sounds like they are moving because they're going to do more development, guys. That's the point. They're going to be doing more development, and so they want to ensure that they continue to do so, and hopefully that investment doesn't go elsewhere outside this $40 billion plant. So again, right here, you can see the other reports from American Prospect have said that TSMC has refused to sign a project labor agreement with the local unions here in America, in Arizona. Okay, so largest manufacturers in Phoenix right now: Intel number 1, Honeywell number 2, the Boeing company number 3. All right, that's the current situation in Arizona. Now, speaking of labor, we're gonna harp on this too much, but construction firms here in Arizona cite labor as biggest challenge despite slowdown in starts. Okay, so the slowdown in starts of construction still are having issues because you can't find the skilled labor, right? So that's not good. But it talks about the American General Contractors of America in partnership with Autodesk and its annual workforce survey released this month that found 88% of construction firms are having a hard time finding workers to hire. That's more than 1,400 firms. That's a lot. So the construction industry goes on to say they had 363,000 jobs openings in July. And part of it is because the construction workforce is aging, guys. They said that the current average age, I believe, somewhere in this article I read, is 42 years old, I believe, which is 1 year older than the average worker in America in general. And so the people coming up that are in the 20s and 30s aren't hopping into the construction industry, and it's sad. And they're even finding out right here is that money doesn't seem to even be the driving factor on it. And I think a lot of this has to do with going back to high school, right? We took out of our public schools many years ago, unfortunately, shop classes. And why we did that, I have no idea. But we took out shop classes and people building woodworking and working with their hands and auto mechanic classes and that kind of stuff. I remember I had those in my high school and my junior high even when I was growing up. And for some reason, they were taken out of our public schools years ago. And I think that's a big mistake because now we have a generation of 20-year-olds coming out of high school that don't know how to do it or aren't experienced with it or don't have any familiarity with it. And so they're just not doing it. Whereas maybe they would have if they would have received that from an earlier age because they would have found working with their hands is actually what they enjoy doing. Office work is not for everybody. And I don't know why we did that in our Department of Education, but I guess maybe that'll be for the next YouTube Live. I'll have to research that and let you guys know next week on YouTube Live. Okay, but there we go. A shortage of labor in the construction industry. And then speaking of which, guys, not to give you all bad news here, but it's interesting, right? Small business owners say it's hard to get a loan and fear more challenges ahead. Okay, so now we're having small business owners saying, man, I don't know if I can get a loan because a lot of the bankers and the liquidity on the small business side is getting a little nervous, right? Because the economy's starting to slow down. Now, this is pretty natural. It's what you would expect when the Fed is very forthright in saying they want the economy to slow down and maybe even go into a small itty bitty recession because of inflation. It's too high, too much money chasing too little goods and services. That money has to cycle through the economy to hopefully get through. And so hopefully we don't inject any further capital, that we print from our government. So we'll see what happens here. But it's interesting to see that. Let's go to the next one. Intel sells a piece of its subsidiary to TSMC, okay, for a lot of money, $430 million to be exact. Holy smokes, that is a lot. So one of their side businesses, if you will, for Intel, they just sold to TSMC for $430 million, okay, because it had a valuation of $4.3 billion, and they still retain the majority rights of this piece of business. So it's interesting to see, guys, because that all being said, it pushed your stock price to its peak that's been since a long time ago. And this talks about it right here. Intel stock surges to the highest price since July 2022. So guys, Intel, despite what you may be hearing, is making a lot of money, made a huge profit on the sale of TSMC, and their stock is now going up. So that's good for the chip business. And they talk about, tensions continue to rise in China. We'll see what happens, because a lot of chip manufacturing comes from America and now Taiwan, right? Or not, and it has been with Taiwan, with TSMC that is actually in Taiwan. And so China's going to be dependent on those chips. And so we'll see how that works out with tensions as they rise. Okay. What's up, Susie? Matt Baker. What's going on? I see that comment. Thank you for saying that. And let me know if you have any questions, comments. But we'll keep rocking and rolling, guys. Let's go to the next one. Now on to some good news. Tiger Woods, guys. Pop Shot. Tiger Woods is PopStroke. Geez, Pop Shot. That's the old basketball game, right? PopStroke is actually opening in October in its new Scottsdale location, guys. Look at this. This is awesome. View from the rooftop bar at PopStroke in Glendale. PopStroke is just weeks away from opening a second Arizona location in time in Scottsdale. So this is the Glendale location, but in Scottsdale, it's going to be open as well, right next to the aquarium and the iFly indoor skydiving, right? And the Butterfly Wonderland and all that fun stuff at the Arizona Boardwalk, okay? But it's interesting because Tiger Woods, his TGR Ventures, owns a portion of this company, PopStroke, and it will be opening here in just a couple months, 1 month to be exact. Okay, so this is awesome. And this is where it's going to be located. It'll have 2 18-hole putting courses embedded in an entertainment venue with a full-service bar, restaurant, ice cream parlor for the kids, of course, not for the adults, for the kids, and a playground and an outdoor beer garden. That's probably for the adults, with a large television, multiple television screens, I imagine, right? So it's pretty cool, right? I can't wait to go. This will be super exciting. And Colin Morikawa, a 2-time major winner on the PGA Tour, actually will take part in the high roller event where 20 players will walk away with a big cash prize. Fellow PGA Tour golfers Taylor Montgomery and Kurt Katayama will compete in the team event. The top 40 teams will receive a cash prize out of a $100,000 purse. Now, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, so guys, I don't know the details of how you get into that cash game, but I'm sure if you go to popstroke.com or Google PopStroke, you will see how you can get in that cash game. If you're a good putter, like yours truly here. By the way, I use an Odyssey 2-ball. Love it. That's my putter. And guys, I don't 3-putt. I'm not the best golfer in the world. I can tell you that much. In fact, I'm not good at all, to be honest with you. I'm just an average golfer at best on a good day. But I can putt. So as long as I get the ball on the green, I'm good. So I'm a great scramble partner to have because I can putt. And my drive can go decent ways, but man, who knows where it's going to go. So PopStroke is going to come out, and here's a Tiger Red course and all this fun stuff, guys. It'll be awesome. But guys, putting is taking over in Scottsdale. You have PopStroke. You have Putt Shack, which is an indoor entertainment mini golf 2-story building in the Scottsdale corridor, Kierland area. And then you also have Putting World, which is in the Promenade area, North Scottsdale, which is also 18 holes of indoor golf, built by Celebrity Greens. And so that's a blast. Abby, what's going on? Can't wait for PopStroke Scottsdale. Yep, me too. It's going to be a blast. I hear they're doing a PopStroke putting championship with You already knew, didn't you? That's fantastic that you already knew that because I just talked about it right here on YouTube Live. So if you didn't know that, now you know. If you don't know, now you know. Okay? So this will be awesome, guys. I can't wait for that. Putting is taking over in Scottsdale, the golf mecca of the world, Scottsdale, Arizona. Okay? And then what else we got that I can show you guys? All right. Well, speaking of golf, there's a lot of closed golf courses and country clubs offer high risk, big rewards for developers. So this talks about now how a lot of closed golf courses are now being bought by developers across the country. And they are making them into multi-use spaces, primarily with condos and living and entertainment venue pieces, things of that nature, right? Hotels, retail space, all kinds of fun stuff. So it's interesting because the golf courses are, in terms of the quantity, are starting to shrink across America. So interesting. But country clubs are actually thriving, to be honest with you, because I think you're seeing this divide with inflation being out of control last couple of years. You're seeing this divide of the wealthy and things of that nature, right? And so country clubs across the country, at least the good ones, a lot of them have waiting lists, whereas some of these municipal courses and or maybe just country clubs that weren't run very well are selling because they can't turn a profit. So it's an interesting dynamic in the golf world right now, to say the least. All right, guys, let's just end right here on a good note. We're going to talk about interest rates being at 7.24, and we're going to talk about that as a good note. Why? Because if you can afford it, buy it, and hopefully they'll just come down. Now, again, I do think they're probably going to go up probably through the rest of the year. Unfortunately, they're at 7.24 right now. But remember, you can always get a buy down. A buy down when you purchase the property. The seller will hopefully pay it if you have a good agent that can negotiate that deal for you. That's why it's always great to have a good third-party intermediary in there as a good negotiator to try to get you that buy down of your interest rate, maybe to a 2-year buy down, a 3-year buy down, where your rate can go down by 1 point for every year you buy down. Pretty cool, right? So if it's 7.24 today and you got a 3-2-1 buy down, your first year payments would be at a 4.24% interest rate. Not too shabby. Downside is obviously in year 2, it now goes to 5.24, in year 3, 6.24, and then in year 4 to your fully indexed rate that you're approved for. What you're gambling on is that rates will come down within those 2 to 3 year time periods, and therefore you can refinance if hopefully your value stays, or if you put enough money down to where values go down a little bit, you still have equity to be able to refinance and then get that 5.75% rate, which hopefully they will all be in at this year, next year at this time. There you go. Next year at this time. So we'll see, guys. We all hope, we all pray. We'll see what happens to make affordability better across America, and especially here in Phoenix. So, guys, thank you so much. We're out of time today. I know it went fast, but thank you so much for joining us here on YouTube Live here, Everything Phoenix. Join us next week. We'll be back, same bat time, same bat channel. And until next time, guys, stay classy, or I should say, keep it classy, Phoenix.